Let's get back into it then. The Tory leadership race is underway. I think candidates or potential candidates have until Monday to throw their name into the ring. As it were, let's speak to one of those who's done exactly that. Tom Tugendhat is a Conservative MP for Tunbridge. I guess, Tom, you are the man that thinks you, like all the others in this race, think you are the person that can pull your party out of oblivion. Why you?
Well, look, I think that we've just seen in the recent election that failing to deliver and losing the trust of the British people is the route to disaster. And we've just seen that result writ large. And that's why what I'm standing for is reuniting this party so that we can rebuild that trust, regain that trust with the British people and offer a possibility of winning the next election. Now, I've demonstrated the ability to deliver on military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've demonstrated that I'm willing to stand up for this country and for the British people here in Parliament, defending us against authoritarian dictators, which has got me sanctioned by China and Russia and Iran, and I'm willing to stand up for what matters and Britain's national security as Security Minister in Cabinet. And that's what I'm standing on, a record of delivery, because we need to regain the trust of the British people. We need to listen and we need to be absolutely ready to serve. One
of the big headlines that have come out of this piece in the Telegraph is that you are ready to leave the ECHR. Understandably, there might be some people scratching their heads on things thinking, what, Tom Tugendhat is going to leave the ECHR? This doesn't seem to be in your history, your DNA. It's not something I'm aware that you've ever said before. Why the big change on this?
Well, look, I've actually been pretty clear on this for several years now, which is that all institutions must serve the interests of the British people. And I've consistently said, in fact, I said it at Conservative Conference, I'm afraid you must have missed that one, but I said it at Conservative Conference a few years ago, that we need to be prepared to look at every organisation, every institution, and make sure it's delivering for the British people. Look, we've seen a record of failure over the last 5 years. We've seen that we've got migration wrong, and we need to be able to look at every single lever that we have and see what's important to change, what we can derogate from, what we can reform, and if we need to, what we must leave. And so this is really focused. This is absolutely about delivering for the British people. That's what we've got to do.
But isn't this about, you know, obviously you have to convince your parliamentary colleagues that you are the man to do this. I'm sure a lot of heads did turn with it. I get that you've, previously talked about revisiting our relationships with institutions, but this is very specific, Tom Tugendhat. I'm prepared to leave the ECHR. You are a passionate pro-European. You voted Remain. You are a man that, would ordinarily have not associated yourself with that line. We all know that. This is a nod to reform, is it? This is a nod to the right wing of your party. And the trouble I sense you have here is that many of them simply won't believe you.
Now, look, I think this is not a nod to any of that. What this is a commitment to serving the British people. And you can look at my track record. You can look at 25, nearly 30 years of public service in the army and recently in Parliament and then in government. And what I've always focused on is what is in the interests of the British people. Now we need to be absolutely clear-eyed on that. There are so many areas that have changed, not just over the last 80 years, but even over the last 5, that we need to be looking at very, very clearly. There are many different voices talking about this reform, not just in the United Kingdom, actually, but around Europe. And we need to be absolutely clear that there are various different options that we need to consider. And that's what I'm saying I'll do. I will look clear-eyed at the options before us and make sure that we get the best solution for the British people. If we don't deliver, what we do is we erode trust in British politics and we erode the trust of the British people. That's wrong. We need to rebuild that trust.
You're a one-nation Tory. You always have been. There's a lot of disquiet in your party.
I'm a Conservative.
OK, and a lot of the criticism of your party is that it ceased to become Conservative, hence the reason why we've got 5 Reform UK MPs who made huge dents in all sorts of constituencies, including your own. Of course, you won the day, but there they were on the coattails throughout. The sense is that body of support is going to grow. Are you the person to really take that on? Are you the person that's going to beat the Badenochs and the Bravermans of this world who are very clearly more aligned with that flavour of conservatism than perhaps your own one nation position?
Well, look, I'm just a Conservative, right? You can use those labels of the past.
But it's important, Tom, in this context, right?
And the reality is, look, Well, the reality is, you're right, there are 4 Reform MPs and there are 71 Lib Dem MPs. There are 4 Green MPs. Look, we lost seats in Herefordshire that have been Conservative since God was a boy. We need to be getting out there and talking to everybody across this country, because what we see consistently is that when you talk to people who are thinking about voting Lib Dem, of course they're focused on things like the NHS and on homes and on protecting green spaces, but they also care about migration. When you talk to people who are thinking about voting Reform, of course they care about migration, but they also care about homes and the NHS. We need to be offering the right answers to deliver for the British people. This isn't about left or right. This is about the past or the future, and we need to be absolutely focused on offering the British people the right answers for the future and then delivering on it, because the reality is we lost trust because we failed to deliver, and I have got a track record of delivery in the army, in Parliament and most recently in government.
If you become the leader of the party, will you carry on or support the idea of building more windmills, particularly in Tunbridge and Morling? Do you think that's this is a good use of government time and money at the moment? Because this is the latest obsession from the Labour front bench. Do you support them?
Look, what I support is the right answers for the British people, and I'm afraid Ed Miliband is on some sort of ideological crusade. What I would do is I'd make sure that we're making sure that we have the energy security to keep Britain safe. We have the economic energy to make sure that British homes aren't forced into very, very difficult choices, as they were only a couple of years ago, let's not forget, because of Ukraine. And also that we're delivering on a lower carbon output. Now, we've done that as Conservatives. We have a track record of that, and I would make sure that we deliver on that. And that's why I'm a passionate supporter of nuclear and eventually on fission reactors. You know, we're working towards that here in the United Kingdom and making sure that we're able to deliver. But that's why we need to make sure we have the energy security from the North Sea and indeed from all the other sources that keep the lights on here in the United Kingdom.
And just a final point, as this race intensifies, candidates start to look at other candidates and talk about who they could work with, etc. If you did get the big job, from the names we know James Cleverly, we're likely Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch in there as well. Who's going to be Tom Tugendhat's J.D. Vance?
Look, I think these are all fantastic Conservative friends of mine. They are all standing on a Conservative platform, and I'm very, very pleased to be working with all of them. They'd all be welcome in my cabinet in different ways. And look, I think they are fantastic Conservative voices, and that's by bringing the Conservative Party together, making sure the different voices, the different ways we express ourselves, are communicating with the British people is so important. We've got to get beyond the factional fighting that we've seen in recent years. We've got to get away from that sort of name-calling. We've got to get way beyond that and focus on Conservative values, and that's exactly what the British people expect, and that's exactly what I'll do.
And on that final point, of those One Nation Conservatives, as they are called, how many of them do you think will support your desire to leave the ECHR if we have to? As a percentage,
I'm focused
roughly.
on Conservatives, and there are Conservatives across the party, and all Conservatives are absolutely focused on what's in the best interest of the British people. And, you know, what I'm advocating is a very, very simple concept. You know, you would absolutely never expect me to advocate membership or joining or remaining in an organisation that didn't serve the interests of the British people. And all I'm saying is making a very simple point, which is that we should always be looking at those institutions, alliances, treaties that serve us and make sure that they are serving our interests and the interests of the British people. OK. Tom Tugendhat, thank you. He's the Conservative MP for Tunbridge and wants to become the next leader of the Conservative Party. Based on what you just heard there, does he sound like the man that's going to bring the Tories back